Howdy, guys, and welcome to the last Stormclans War Q&A thing. As always, these are unscripted, and while I have reviewed the questions before, I may take me a little while to answer them because I haven't really been around Stormclans War a lot lately. It's crazy that this thing's already over. I mean, it's only been 2 years, right? That's not much. Anyways, let's get started. The Box Kitty asks, what inspired you to write Stormclans War? I think I answered this in previous Q&As. It was a mixture between Disney movies, having developed this series for a year in my mind prior, and I Love You, which was a comic I was into at the time. Willow asked me a whole bunch of questions. Okay, so she asked, what does the future hold for our OG apprentices? Lake, Rose, Frost, Sky, etc. Future kits, cause of death, all that tea. Well, let's start off with Lake. In the future, Lake does become the deputy. 2 years after the events of the epilogue, Lion retires, quote unquote. And she becomes deputy with Renfrost. She eventually dies due to saving a couple of kits from a ongoing fox or badger attack. She's the first to die of all the gang, but don't worry, she dies 4 years after the comic. She's old enough. Rose eventually has 2 children with Junko Wing, Fawn Kit and Briar Kit. She doesn't get any roles. She eventually dies in the Elder's Den with Frost a whole bunch of years after the events of the comic. Sky eventually has a kit, but I'll get to that later. She remains to be happy and eventually dies of arthritis in her senior warrior years. And finally, we're on to Frost. Frost eventually becomes mates with Sky Rose, which is hinted in the epilogue, and they both find a child that was abandoned in the woods named Piper Kit, who is eventually important, I suppose. She eventually dies in the Elder's Den with Rose after a long, long life together. Which character has changed the most throughout the comic? I think the one who underwent most character development was Frostberry. She started off as this annoying, obnoxious, kind of self-centered kid, and she grew up to be this sad, paranoid, but, kind of happy cat. I'm really proud of her development throughout the comic. And what was your favorite character? What was the favorite chapter or page that you drew? My favorite chapter that I drew was the chapter before Applefall died. I think that's chapter 29. It's the one where Brindle Moon dies. I'm really, really proud of that one. I like how it turned out. I love the whole blizzardy effect. And the favorite page I ever drew, I think, was when Apple died. That was pretty nice to draw. Who is my least favorite Stormclans War cat? I don't know. I have a deep love for most of the cats, but if there's one character that really freaking annoys me sometimes, it's Rosebud. She reminds me of someone I used to be friends with. And at the time of writing Rosebud, I was in a little bit of a disagreement with her. Writing Rosebud just reminds me a lot of those tough times, but I still love her. She's not my hated, but she's the one I have the most mixed feelings on. How does Apple feel about dying so young? Oh, he's not happy about it. He often spends his time as a ghost trying to relive his days back when his friends were all with him, and he always fails and makes himself miserable. He's not happy about being dead, and he can't wait until his friends die. As horrible as that sounds. Were there any alternate endings you thought before the comic started, or was it always supposed to end this way? Oh, well, there's a lot of things that change. It always was going to end with Lightning dying somehow. Originally, I was going to have him, get chased away by Frost and he dies by some oncoming rocks or something, I think. But it always ended with him getting killed by Frost, and I think one of the biggest changes I ever made in the series was the beginning. Originally, this entire plot was strewn about by original. Oh my god, that's an entire other thing. I'll explain the original plot of Stormclans War one of these days, because it's just absolutely whack, and I cannot get into my 2017, 2016 self right now. What parts on the story did you want to elaborate on, but you didn't have the time? The apprentices, the new apprentices in part 2, Seapaw, um, Peachpaw, Brindlepaw, Maplepaw. They were like big prevalent figures at the beginning of the comic, and I meant to keep it that way, but as the comic went on, I realized I didn't have any time to elaborate on them. They all had these like their own little side character stories, and Lake was supposed to get really close with Wavepaw, but she was never able to. But sadly, I just couldn't get to it. Hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to make these little side stories about them. Will Lake ever become deputy or leader? Because I stand a queen. She does become the deputy 2 years from now. And Constellation asks, do you feel like writing/creating Stormclans War really helped you develop those skills? Absolutely. Writing Stormclans War acts as like a physical representation of my artistic journey. I grew so much in those 2 years because of the constant development of drawing backgrounds and being forced to do all these dynamic poses with characters. It really helped with my artistic endeavors. And with writing, it helped me learn how to write a comic. Like at the beginning, I just shut down a couple of lines of dialogue and was like, all right. But now I know how to make a script and how to make character arcs. It really helped me with a lot. And I'm really happy that I decided to do Stormclans War. Aspen asked, how long did it take you to come up with the whole Stormclans War story? 2 years. I think when we came to I originally had like this really edgy 2015, 2016 story with Wind Clans, Thunder Clan and stuff. When I really started developing the plot of Stormclans War, it was off of my old OCs. So I kind of developed it around 2017, and then it eventually became its own thing in 2018. So I guess it took me like 2 years to create. What was your favorite scene to draw and why? My favorite scene to draw was when Apple died because I've been building up to it for a long time, and it was nice to imagine how everyone would cry. What made you initially want to start such a large project? And were there any times you ever regretted it? I started Stormclans War on a complete whim. I didn't plan for anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't even make character reference sheets until like later on in the comic. I remember being bored in 2018 and wanting to start up a new project, and so I did. I think the most I ever regretted starting Stormclans War was actually really recently, back in January and February when I couldn't finish the epilogue for some reason. I had no more inspiration, and I was just so burnt out from it, especially after the finale, which I drew in 1 month. In the end there, I really pressured myself to keep up with a consistent schedule, and it eventually just burned down on me. I'm pretty sure had I been nicer on myself, I would have been able to get the epilogue out sooner. Out of all the OG apprentices who are still alive, who dies first and how? Lake, she dies first. She dies protecting a bunch of cats. Second is Skyrose, and then Rose and Frost die together. Do you base your Stormclans War characters off of yourself or people around you? A mixture of both. Rose was built off of an old friend of mine. Lake was mainly Blake, Apple, and Frost are based off of things that I feel, like different parts of myself. Silver is based off of a person I used to despise. Lightning was based off of my experiences with someone I disliked. Like, it's a mixture of both. Do any of the OG apprentices have kicks? Oh, wait, I already answered that. Do Frost and Sky ever become lovers? Yes! Do you plan to make a comic tutorial? And if not, can you give us, 10 top tips, please? Okay, I said previously that I was going to make a huge post about how to make comics, but that eventually went down in the fires. So I'll give you top 10 tips in a post somehow. I don't have enough time to explain right now. I'm sorry, Creative Cat. Mother Nature asks, does Frostberry ever have kids? Which I already answered. Does her mother find love and have kids? Lily Cloud is a medicine cat, therefore she cannot have any love. However, I haven't made this official yet. I'm not sure if it'll even happen, but there might be a thing between Renfrost and Lily Cloud. I don't know. Does Finch Meanie beat up his dad during the finale? Oh, you get the answer to that in the epilogue. Ha! We end off with just another name. Does anything terrible happen to the characters after the story ends, or do they get to live out their lives normal afterwards? Well, Lake dies to a dog 4 years after the events. 2 years after the events, that event that makes Lion Peak retire, a lot of horrible stuff happens, and there's a forest fire. That's not important. I'm sure it's not. Does Lakeshard ever recover from Applefall's death? She doesn't really recover from it. It's one of the deepest traumas I think she'll ever have. She eventually learns to cope with it, but it takes her a long time to get there. How many people died in the story? Alright, let's see here. There's Scarface, Silver Star, Brindle Moon, Applefall. 4 main character deaths. I don't know. I kill too many people on a regular basis. What would every main character's favorite song be? Frost would like Constellations by the Oh Hellos. It's really calming, and I find her really liking it. Rose would be really into trashy, top hit songs, maybe some Billie Eilish. I don't know what the top hit is right now, so whatever top hit there is with a bunch of autotune, I'm pretty sure Rosebud would like. Sky Rose would be really into Dodie, so Dodie's newest song, the new demos that she's releasing, would probably be her favorites right now. Lake would be really into 70s songs, so I'm pretty sure she'd be basic and be really into Bohemian Rhapsody or anything from Queen. What else? Oh, and Applefall. What would Applefall like? I see him liking lo-fi music. Just one of those things. What would be every main character's favorite game and why? Frost would like Breath of the Wild, Zelda games. She'd absolutely adore Zelda games. Lakeshard would be really into the board game Risk, which is this battle technical game. I see her really being into that. Sky Rose would be into that. Sky Rose would be into Animal Crossing. Applefall would also be into Animal Crossing. Both of them would bond over their mutual love over Nintendo. And who else am I missing? Rose. What would Rose be? Rose would really like matchmaker games, probably romantic simulators like Mystic Messenger. She's a nerd. How would main characters cope with the coronavirus situation that affected them? All right, let's see here. Frost would be an idiot and ignore all the signals, and she'd be the first to get coronavirus of all of them. Stay indoors. Apple would thrive off of the lack of social interaction he's meant to do. And how he'd cope is that he'd probably just eat a bunch, start a new hobby, just enjoy his time indoors like he always does. Rose would be that socially deprived extrovert who's dealing with their emotions through these really crazy makeup things. Lake would be the cleaner. She'd be cleaning everything in the house just to get off her own ticks. She'll be that person who starts a million projects but doesn't finish any of them because she feels this constant need to be productive during quarantine, but she just can't. And yeah, which character in the series would win a Hunger Games type situation? Lion Peak or Cloudstar? Cloudstar is the leader of MoonClan. I'll end off questions with less death murder related ones. And what would be the main character's favorite memes? Rosebud would be very outdated and be into Pepe memes. Frost would like that meme where that guy is looking back at that girl and the girl's guy. It's that one. Apple would be into Facebook memes. Lake would be into self-deprecating memes. And what else would there be? Sky Rose would love... What would Sky Rose love? Sky Rose wouldn't be into memes because I can't think of any right now. And what a way to end off the Q&A. Thank you all for joining me in this long Stormclans War-esque comic thing. I really appreciate everyone's support. It's been a long haul, and I can't believe it's over. Thank you guys for everything, and see ya.